I actually have a Russian question related to Russia. Last week we had on Michael Kennedy from the Watson Institute at Brown University. There's been a lot of buzz about this Russian intelligence ship that was off the East Coast. And he said that that's really not a big deal, that stuff happens all the time, but when you combine it with other recent events, it is a concern. Is he right? Was an intelligence ship, you know this stuff really well, that's totally normal?
Well, what's happened is that the last several decades, as Russia has recovered from the collapse of the Soviet Union, has had high oil prices until recently, they have reinvigorated their entire military establishment. So now they have the capability, as they did in the 50s and 60s, to send ships, aircraft far and wide, and they're doing that. Part of what I think they were doing was basically testing the reactions of the administration. We know how would they react to a ship that close, and very publicly. It was in international waters. It was complying with international laws of the sea, and as a practical basis, frankly, in terms of getting intelligence from, it was the submarine base at Groton or elsewhere, there are other means, satellite photography, etc. So I think it was more of a political sort of probing, and they're doing that in many, many places. They're certainly very active in Eastern Europe, in the Ukraine, in the Baltic. They're flexing their muscles and to see how we will react.
President Trump has appointed two recently retired generals to his cabinet, Defense Secretary James Mattis, Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly, and now, as Tim mentioned at the top, he's turned to another active general, H.R. McMaster, for the National Security Advisor. McMaster will need Senate approval if he wants to retain his three-star rank, as I understand it, to serve in that. Will you support that?
Well, first of all, I think there has to be an opportunity to allow my colleagues to understand his views. I hope we can have either, if not hearings, then there will certainly be an extended debate on the floor before there's a vote. And in that debate, many issues will come up, not only his views, but also how the present NSC has been organized under President Trump. As I indicated before, when you sort of take away from a permanent spot the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and put in a permanent spot a political operative, that raises questions. And it goes to the whole issue of really who's in charge of foreign policy. And I think, you know, those are the type of questions my colleagues would like to ask. I would hope we could have some way to do that with General McMaster.
So are you open to supporting that if your questions are answered, or are you leaning toward opposing, letting him?
No, I think you've got to give him an opportunity to express himself. And if not, then you've got to search the record. One thing is that he's an outstanding soldier. There's no doubt about that. He won the Silver Star in Iraq. He commanded the 3rd Armored Cavalry Division, later as a full colonel. One of the most thoughtful, scholarly persons. His thesis was dereliction of duty about the Vietnam War, basically accusing the military leadership of not standing up to the president at that time. So he brings a great deal of personal talent. The question, I think, though, is, you know, will he be given the authority, and will he be given the access and to do that job? We want to establish that if we can.
We have to go to a break fairly soon, but we're taping this on a Friday. This morning, Donald Trump fired off, I know it'll surprise you, a couple of tweets, and he's very upset about leaks, not only from the White House, but also from the FBI, and he wants the FBI to crack down on those leaks. You know, look, this is nothing new. President Obama was tough on leakers, and he was tough on journalists who obtained information. Do you agree with Trump in any way? Are the leaks out of control right now, and are there national security concerns?
I think what is happening is that there are many people who are dedicated career professionals who are concerned about his behavior, frankly, and the course of the government.
So you support the leaks?
I think what I would like to see a more sort of thoughtful, a more deliberate policy approach. And would that stem the leaks? As you point out, Tim, this is a persistent issue in Washington, every administration. I think the president would be better advised, rather than focusing on the leaks, than focusing on his management style, his approach, his communication with the American people in a way that inspires confidence and doesn't inspire in some people, and including, I'm sensing people, you know, career civil servants, of a sense of deep concern.
Our guest this week, U.S. Senator Jack Reed. When we come back, the president's new executive order on immigration. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers.